All right, we move on to the world of college football and the old college football preview. Got some pretty solid matchups. The Big 12s finally got one for us. We don't. We've been waiting for Oklahoma to play somebody and pad this resume because the committee is not impressed. They sitting there at number 8 with the 9-0 record, but they go on the road to take on Baylor. Baylor's sitting there at 13, so that's definitely a big game in the Big 12. In the Big 10, you got Purdue. Can Purdue shock another top 10 team? They'll go on the road to play Ohio State at 3:30 on ABC. Those are two of the bigger matchups that we have. We also have some middle of the pack top 20 matchups. You got Texas A&M playing Ole Miss at 7, and also I don't have to come out here and freak out about Wake Forest being undefeated anymore because we took care of that last week. Thank you, North Carolina. But we'll see if NC State can put another one on them and get the Dave Clawson crew out of here yet again. Those are some of the matchups we have. You got Georgia also. That's the game on CBS. They'll play Tennessee. And Alabama is a whopping 51.5-point favorite against New Mexico State. That was somewhat eye-opening. Oh, also Michigan. They'll get Penn State on the road, try to continue to get back on track after losing to Michigan State a couple weeks ago. Drink, what stands out to you?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, for all my Alabama watchers, slash listeners, listen. I'm not. Listen, we're playing New Mexico State. We better cover. That's how I feel about that. We better cover. We playing them at noon. I hope the fans show up and support. I know these are not the best, supported games from our fans, but I hope they show up and support. But at the end of the day, New Mexico State just don't go in enough for me. Not at a 1-8 record. So. Starting out with Georgia, kind of fitting Georgia a 20-point favorite. They haven't really showed any weakness on the defense side of the ball. I have seen a couple of teams move the ball here and there, but listen, no defense have ever not given up some yards or some points. So Georgia on pace to be, if they win the national championship this year and keep playing dominant football, they're on pace to be the best defensive team we've seen in the modern day era. This is ridiculous when you think about all these spread offenses and RPO and this, that, and the third, and what they doing is pretty admirable, and they deserve all the accolades that they got to this point. Now, to say that we're going to see the same thing against Tennessee, I'm not quite sure. I've been watching Tennessee. Tennessee, a high-scoring team. I know Alabama did some things against them, but I do think everything being equal, Alabama can move the ball a lot better than Georgia. Georgia their defense so stymied, it don't matter if they move the ball because you have to move the ball against them. And I think that's, so when I look at that, if Tennessee can do something that no one else has been able to do, and that's to move the ball and score points at the same time, make some splash plays, I'm not sure if Georgia covers. I do think Georgia wins, but I'm not sure if Georgia cover. Listen, like I said, I've been looking at Tennessee. They sneaky. You go look at their stats on the offense. They're a top 10 team in a lot of stats as far as the offense goes. I think rushing, they were just like number 6 in the nation. They might have dropped a little bit. They didn't run the ball all that well against Alabama, and I'm not sure how they did the week after. But they probably still top 10. I think offensively, Tennessee would be the best team Georgia would play until the SEC championship offensively. All around, maybe not so much. So I think that game will be a little closer than what people think. Oregon, going against Washington State, coming to Eugene to play Oregon. 10:30 on ESPN. 14-point favorite. I think Oregon take care of that. If Oregon stumbles, I think that's something to look at there. A stumble at home against a not-so-good Washington State team. It's just been so fickle this year, you just don't know. You don't know what you're going to get. Now, what I do find surprising in this game you mentioned is Purdue, number 19. Number 19, Purdue coming in and play number 4, Ohio State. They got Ohio State a 21-point favorite. Now, I find that to be interesting because we know what Purdue resume looked like up to this point. If they was to beat Ohio State, that's 3 ranked opponents in 3 weeks, and you done took out pretty much every heavy hitter that you'd win against up to this point. The only one that would be left at this point is Michigan. Oh man, that game, I think to me is the most important game in the Big Ten this week. Because if Ohio State was to lose this game, I think that conference is really in a disarray. Because I don't think Michigan gonna beat Ohio State. So now you're telling me right now, if Ohio State lose this game, we have a very good chance of having a 2-loss Big Ten champion. Or a 3-loss Big Ten champion. And we talked about this, it's no precedent set for a 2-loss conference champion. So I think that's the biggest game in the Big Ten. To your point, the biggest game in the Big 12, Oklahoma, going down to play number 13 Baylor. That's your big noon kickoff. It's about time we see Oklahoma play another Power 5 team because they only played one up to this point. People forget that. They're 9-0. But one Power 5 team up to this point, that's not going to cut it. That's just not going to cut it. So, like you said, they get into the meat and potatoes of their schedule. We'll see how that turns out here. But for all you Oklahoma fans that be out here crying because y'all undefeated and the likes of Bama and Oregon get put in front of you and Cincinnati, is the reason why. Cincinnati have played more Power 5 teams than you. And don't even get me started on the other teams that's in front of you. So that's the reason why. We'll see how that go down. Very interesting that. The game we'll be going to, we'll see it live in effect. 7:30 is the primetime game. I think that's the Herb Street and Fowler and crew game. It's not like we're going to be able to hear them in the stadium, but that is the game that I think they're calling. We got number 9 Notre Dame coming old Charlottesville to play your team, the Virginia Cavaliers, at 7:30. That's very interesting. This could be... Virginia could play spoiler, and this don't really necessarily impact what they can do in the ACC. However, what it does impact is their confidence for the rest of the year from the ACC. If you can beat a team like Notre Dame, primetime game, show that you deserve to be there, show that you're gonna play hard. I think this is a game that could catapult them. You would just give me some stats that could possibly end up with them being in the ACC championship game. So I think that's a very big game for Notre Dame and Virginia. Because if Notre Dame lose, they can go ahead and kiss the playoff picture goodbye. If Virginia lose, they play with house money essentially. Like, who's gonna blame Virginia for losing to Notre Dame? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's gonna be a very good game. We're gonna get to catch that live. So we'll see how that goes. Very cold, folks. Your boy gonna be freezing out there. I'm gonna be looking like a chocolate flavored popsicle. But I'm gonna be out there. Me and Jay, you know what I'm saying? He might have the pom-poms. I might have to, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, but we're gonna be live in effect. Look out for it. Might go live a little bit just to, talk some trash and see how it go. Texas A&M and Ole Miss. I'm looking at that game. Texas A&M 2.5-point favorite. Number 11 against number 15. Ole Miss is reeling a little bit right now. I know they packed, injuries are piling up for them. Texas A&M, they've really built their confidence since their win over Alabama early in the year. And this is why I tell people, give Alabama all that crap by losing to an unranked team. This team is one loss away from being a top 10 team. Right. When one of these people in front of them lose, they're going to be a top 10 team come next ranking. So just keep that in mind when you talk about, Alabama lost to an unranked team. There's levels to it. You hit on NC State and Wake Forest. Now, I think as far as the ACC go, this is the most important game for that conference. Looking at this, the winner of this game will take a driver's seat. I know you're not enamored.
That tells you about the state of the ACC.
It does. But, listen, think about this. The ACC is getting more respect than the Big 12 because...
Yeah, and undefeated Oklahoma was only, last week's rankings? They were 8-9. Yeah, that says a lot.
They didn't move at all. And then you got these ACC teams that are slowly making their way up. Yeah. NC State wins, they could be 14, 13 or something next week. So clearly they're getting more respect than the Big 12. Take that for what it's worth, right? Then another ranked SEC game, Mississippi State, now that they're in the polls against Auburn. We'll see how they go. That's another, like you said, mid-tier teams ranked against each other. See how they go. I'm going to take Auburn in that one. And then to close it out, I think number 25 Arkansas, they're going down to LSU. We seen LSU coming out with a bunch of rejects and take Alabama to the wire. Arkansas just trying to hang on to the little reprieve that they got as the season went. They went from Sam Pittman, baby. He got the Hogs back, and now they hanging on by a thread in the top 25. So, with all that said, man, these we have more action as far as rank versus rank this week, but I don't know if we'll see a ton of chaos. Usually, we get chaos with those weeks where we don't have a lot of rank versus rank games.
Right.
So I don't know if the chaos is gonna be out there, but I do think as we go into November and we go into December, this is where the rubber meets the road for all the conferences. This is where you got to show that you're a contender or a pretender, right? So that's how I'm looking at Saturday. If I had to give a true game that I'm interested in, I think Purdue. That just what can happen with Purdue and Ohio State. I think that's the game for me for the week, because if Ohio State lose, that's gonna change the Big Ten dramatically, I think. So yeah, man, and I'll be looking at that Georgia and Tennessee game because I love that. I love them games. So yeah, that's how I'm looking at Week 11, man.
The two big ones that stand out to me is Big Noon with Oklahoma and Baylor. That's Oklahoma's time to show the committee, okay, this is what we can
show
do.
The committee. We all want to see it, not just committee.
Well, show everybody, but like you look at their schedule and who they play and how they perform. Really, outside of beating Texas Tech a couple weeks ago, the Texas Tech game, I think it was a step in the right direction. They beat them by 31, and I think that's what we need to see from Oklahoma, because like the week before you beat Kansas by 12, and it's like what is this?
Right.
Because most you look Tulane, you beat them by 5, you beat Nebraska by a touchdown, West Virginia field goal, Kansas State 6. You had to pull the most incredible comeback out your behind against Texas. Don't get me. We can't. I can get time. It's got time for Texas. But the point is, like, based on the level of competition they didn't play, they ain't had enough style points. It's the same thing Cincinnati's dealing with right now. Cincinnati got to come out here and they got to blow some people away. Maybe South Florida tonight would be a good start. Get them dudes out of here. But that's what Oklahoma is. Baylor, the committee still got respect for them. They 13th right now.
Right.
So even if they lose this game, they'll probably stay in the rankings.
Right.
So this would be a good start. This would be a time for Oklahoma start, putting some wins together that matter. You got Iowa State next week, and then the big one will be Oklahoma State before the Big 12 title game. So they're gonna have, I'm less certain about the Iowa State game because who knows. Don't look. Iowa State ain't in the rankings. I don't think they're gonna pop back in there. But Baylor, Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title game, I think that's enough to get you up there. There still is a scenario where I think Oklahoma could get left out as a Big 12 undefeated champion. But you at least give yourself a chance, because right now the way they playing, they don't have the feel, and the committee's telling you what they think. They got them at 8 right now, and they one of the last couple teams that are undefeated. Every other team...
It's 4 teams that's undefeated.
And 2 of them, if you look at what you have, you got Cincinnati in there, but look, your 2, 3, and 4 right now have 1 loss, and then Michigan State have 1 loss, and they're in front of Oklahoma. So that tells you the committee right now ain't taking them that seriously.
Right.
So I think Big Noon, that's a huge game for Oklahoma and for the playoff from Oklahoma's perspective. And then Purdue, Ohio State, you talk about it like, yeah, I can't imagine what it would mean for the Big Ten because you got to think, Ohio State lose that game, they got 2 losses. Right. They probably gonna be out. They probably gonna be out.
They're gonna be out, but then they're still the best team to win the conference. So
right.
that's the dilemma you put yourself in. Like, yeah, they probably won't get voted in, but who in the hell gonna beat them? Especially if they lose to Purdue, they're gonna end the season strong, and it's Michigan. So they're gonna play Michigan.
And they'll have Purdue. They got Purdue this week. They also get Michigan State too. So They're gonna have an opportunity to beat 2 likely top 10 teams, and then to win the Big Ten, because as you know, the Big Ten West it ain't quite as good. I mean, I know Wisconsin's been better, but I can't see Wisconsin beating them. I mean, we've seen that quite a few times.
Right.
Wisconsin just they never had the athletes to compete in space.
Right.
So yeah, I think. But again, like you say, Purdue got an opportunity to come in here. Look, when they beat Iowa was number 2. When they beat Michigan State last week, they was number 3. Can you get number 4 now? So Purdue's, I don't think they can.
Their resume would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, I can't see it, but it would be something to like. I don't know. That would have to be one of the like craziest seasons in Purdue football history.
Right.
To run that type of. To run the table like that against 2, 3, and 4.
It's time to go recruiting. We got something to build on.
And also, like Purdue is, you look at the Big Ten West right now.
Mm-hmm.
You got Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, and Iowa all sitting at 4-2. So there's still only 2 games. Well, no, I guess each team has 3 games left. So there's still a lot of. You're looking at the East, which is Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State. And I think we think it's Ohio State that'll end up coming out of that pack,
right.
Especially because you think if Ohio State loses this game, that's their first conference loss.
Mm-hmm.
So if they take care of business against Michigan State and Michigan, they're going to get in.
Right.
But I'm looking at that little jumbled mess. Like I guess I'd lean Wisconsin right now, but I don't think we have a clue how that's going to shake out.
No, I mean, listen, Wisconsin probably playing the best of those teams, but like you said, 3 games left.
They're the hottest. They won 5 in a row. Iowa, they didn't kind of tailed off, and
right.
I mean Minnesota is like, that's cool, but like, I don't know if we believe in quite yet. But Purdue definitely hot too, and they got the big wins to show it. They do, however, they did lose to Wisconsin, so Wisconsin got that tiebreak on them. Those are the 2 games I think that mean the most to the playoff this week.
Okay.
Everybody else, Georgia, Tennessee, maybe they can test them. If they can score, that'd be great. Georgia's giving up 59 points in 9 games, so nobody's scoring. I think you have. I want to say I saw in the conference, they given up 7 games. They given up 49 points, so you're getting a touchdown per game. You're getting nothing. So I think, and then maybe this is something that Alabama should look at, like. Tennessee, show us there's some hope, because I think Alabama, I don't think Georgia can shut them down completely.
Right.
But it'd probably be nice for Alabama to see an offense have some success.
Can we see some crack in that armor?
That maybe Bama can exploit.
Right.
In the SEC title game, because that's what we're projecting. And you are right. Like Georgia, after this game against Tennessee, they get Charleston Southern, I think, and Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
So they in full dress rehearsal mode at this stage. So Oregon, Oregon, Washington State, like I think that's another one of those things. Like to me, if in the scenario where Bama, if they can beat Georgia in the SEC title game, both of those teams are going to get in, and then you're going to come down to if Ohio State wins out, they're going to get in. They're going to have the resume to prove it. So it's going to come down to Oregon and Oklahoma. To me, Oregon, just to feel good about themselves, they need to, like some of these Pac-12 teams that are inferior, like a Washington State, they need to put a hurting on. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a game where they need to cover at least, just to show the committee, okay, we out here, we're still performing. We're not just out here resting on that week 2 win against Ohio State on the road.
Right.
I think they need to do a little bit more to just continue to separate themselves.
Right.
Those are the one that stands out. Michigan, you got to win that one. Michigan State, those 2 teams to stay in it need to win and get some confidence, because they both have Ohio State looming down the road. But just to close out, we will be down there watching Notre Dame and Virginia. The big question mark in this one is, Brennan Armstrong a couple of weeks ago went down with the cracked ribs. I have no indication on whether he's going to play or not. But if he doesn't play, I think it's hard to believe that Virginia could, pull the upset. But if he does play, I think, look, we've seen what Brennan Armstrong can do. This might be the best quarterback that you ain't never heard of. Mm-hmm. He's putting up just numbers that are just ridiculous. It's going to come down to, I think, if he does play, I think Virginia will be in the game. I don't think Notre Dame's the type of team that can run away from you. Virginia has struggled against teams with great offenses, like North Carolina, like BYU, and even Wake Forest to a lesser degree. I don't think Notre Dame, with a Jack Cohn is going to be a team that can do that to him. So I think if Brennan Armstrong plays, Virginia's going to have a shot in this game. I expect them to be in the game, and they play way better at home. We watched them against BYU a couple weeks ago. That defense was just awful to the tune of 66. So I think Virginia will be in the game. It should be a great time. It will be cold. I'll be ready for it. I don't know about drink. You might have to put some extra layers on.